Hey, I'm Dr. Kate Wong.
And I'm Tiara Mitchell. And you're listening to
the Holistic Hope Podcast. We invite you to join us
and our village
in conversations rooted in wellness and health so that we may grow a community of generational healing through love.
And it makes a difference, especially for parents and mothers in their communities. It's very, very powerful when a woman knows and is educated what she wants, what kind of life she wants to live, and then she can put like her focus there. But there's a lot of confidence stuff that goes there too. So my kids go to a free school right now. They're both not vaccinated. My child was vaccine injured. I had a natural birth. I did the Bradley method in a hospital setting. I had no medicine at all. It was totally unassisted. I went on to breastfeed my babies. I created a breastfeeding revolution series. I connected with Abby Epstein and Ricky Lake. So just so you kind of like, I just did life as Christine, as the mother, where I live, but I was still able to ignite change and social change. Not because I'm a feminist, but because I'm an empowered woman who knows what she wants and I know what's available to me. And a lot of parents don't know that that's an option. When I say, do you know that you don't necessarily need to give your baby this vitamin K shot straight out of birth or this hepatitis B shot right in the hospital? You don't necessarily, and they're like, what do you mean? But my pediatrician said I have to. I'm like, no. There's a whole other world out there for us. I was a New York City public school teacher. Now I send my kids to school. They play outside all day. But who would know this? I worked inside of a lot of the systems. I think that was the great thing about me, and I could see how they didn't work. And so that's how I was able to stand for the other thing that I believed was best for me. I always believe the mother knows what's best for her children. And it's just empowering her to speak up. Because sometimes even just asking the question, I fired pediatricians. I mean, I have so many stories. So that's where voice and speaking.
So much, and I did not know all of that.
I'm so glad you hit record. I was like, shoot, I should have said that.
I could say it all day. I could say it in multiple. There's so many different angles, but like that's why I got the Rock Your Voice. I went from mom's coach for life to Rock Your Voice woman. Because when I was working with the mothers, I was like, why aren't they? So the other thing is women don't feel worthy enough to even say, I need support. Or, I want my children home. I don't want to send them to a school or to a daycare. Or like whatever they make their decision, just know that they have a choice. Now, it's not so out there because most people follow the path of the mainstream. Here's my baby, do what you gotta do, and they don't question it. But I've been on the off side of that. I've seen children with autism and allergies and all these, and as a teacher, I would say, what's going on with our offspring? This is our offspring, people. Oh, we know. They would make jokes. I mean, it's 18 years ago, but I was like, this is not funny. The kids with all of these disorders are like doubling and tripling, and I've only been teaching for 10 years. I keep seeing more and more problems. Why are we as a society not looking at our children and really putting our time, attention, and money here to our future generations? Forget about college. I'm just talking about their health. They're anxious. They have all of this, right? And so I became a health coach, and I saw mothers, of course, this is why I love the mothers, right? Recover their children's health very quickly because, okay, the child's not that old yet. They haven't developed all of these things, right? So they were able to eliminate their diets and really help their kids. But then I started looking at the mothers. I'm like, wait, I'm helping them, trying to help the mothers help their kids. They've got that, but who's helping the mothers? So there's a lot of information. There's networking. We don't live in villages, and it takes a village to raise children. And what I mean by village is like you need a freaking team of people.
Yeah.
Okay, your regular people. We don't even go to the pediatrician anymore. We haven't gone in like I think 3 or 4 years already now, because they don't need to. I used to go all the time, and it was ridiculous. I used to just go for checkups and whatever, and I did all that, and then it was like okay, and then she'd be like, okay, go do your oils and your homeopathy. Bye. I'm like, okay. So let's use our health system for when we need it. Look at this virus, the same thing. What if we could just take care of ourselves? Because believe me, if I get this thing, I know how to take care of myself. Not to say whatever, but I take care of myself all the time. And I use that system as it's meant to be used. If I'm dying, if I have a terrible disease, if I need surgery, yes, I am the first person in that ER. If that's not the case, I'm not there. But that's not how I grew up. You know, I've grown up like you go to the doctor every so often, you get the shots, you do the things, you follow the thing, whatever. And everyone I know that's around me is very sick. We got to look at this. We got to start having these conversations. Yeah. So you ready?
Go from there. That was perfect. Like, that was a perfect. So I'm really curious to know about a little bit more into your journey. Like you mentioned being a teacher and then having your own kids. So can you tell us just how life was before you started to recognize something needs to change?
Oh yeah. Those were the good times. Now so you know, I will just say this. Yeah, I'm such an advocate for children and mothers because my whole life I came into the world as a colicky baby, and I was like a week premature on top of that. And so my digestion was never good, meaning, you know, either I had constipation or diarrhea or whatever. I had skin issues. I had, and I still do a very little bit, but I do have psoriasis on my scalp. And I had that from when I was very young. I used to pass out, faint as a young child because I would overheat. Things that like you would be like, what? So that was my journey. And then what I noticed is like the more that I took on, the more that I grew up, it got worse. Like my menstrual cycle was horrific. Like, so I was put on medicine. Medicine was always the answer, you know, the cortisol shots and the whatever. Then I had allergies. So I had the beginnings of endometriosis. A very young girl just going to the doctors like, I don't feel well. I did go to nutritionists when I was younger, but my diet wasn't horrific, so we couldn't like pinpoint what it really was. I was labeled with GERD, leaky gut, irritable bowel syndrome. And so all of this finally came to a head when I was just out of college. And, you know, that's what I mean. Like I entered the world and I was ending up in the emergency room 3 times a month that I would call in and end up there because everything would just come up and out of me. Like, first of all, I would be in pain for 12 to 16 hours. My stomach would be churning, all this stuff. Like, and I wouldn't know when it would happen, when it would come on, nothing. And then all of a sudden, everything would just come up and I would be crawling on the floor. I mean, it was horrible. And nobody knew that that was happening with me because every time I went to a doctor, nobody could really figure out what the thing was. So I didn't clearly say anything. I tried to live my life. I tried to avoid it, really is what I was doing. And so at 22, it got really bad. And that's when I went to the doctor and they said, okay, let's get some biopsies going. And they saw that my stomach lining was growing up into my esophagus. What they said was a result from years and years of acid reflux. This is called Barretts Esophagus or Barrett's disease. This is something that people 75 and older have, and I was 22. And so they were like, this is really the life expectancy. We don't even know what happens because usually, you know, there's not that long of a life to live and you're so young. So they put me on Nexium, Prevacid, all this stuff. It wasn't working. I mean, I took it for maybe 6 months, and when it wasn't working, I'm like, I'm not taking it anymore. No, you need to keep taking it. I'm like, I'm not taking it anymore. It's not working. Like, nothing's changing. So after I started having these terrible episodes, I went to a holistic nutritionist who's now a functional medicine doctor, and she just supported me in cleaning up my diet, eating organic food. Again, everybody then thought it was so weird. I know we're 2020, but I'm talking like 2005. Okay. People were like, I was juicing. They're like, oh, she has to eat the organic. I mean, they thought I was like snooty and, you know, because I couldn't eat what other people were eating. for a little while. It wasn't that long, but I adopted to like, this is actually what makes me feel better. So I shifted my whole lifestyle. And I started juicing. I added in probiotics. I added in some digestive enzymes for only like 2 or 3 months. I went back to the doctors. I was feeling great. No more episodes. Skin started clearing up. Tummy bloat started going down. And they said, wow, they did another biopsy, endoscopy. And they were like, we see scar tissue. So this means you're actually healing now. There's no more new growth from what we see. And so like, keep taking the medicine. And I'm like, no, I stopped taking the medicine. Because remember, I told you I was on it and you were, and the doctor at the time was like, you stopped taking the medicine. I'm like, I told you it wasn't working, but let me tell you what I did instead. And he was nope. He's like, listen to me. I go to medical school and this is what they teach in medical school. And this is my prescription for you. If you don't take this prescription, I can't be your doctor. You understand that? And I stood there as a woman empowered now in her voice and said, well, that's okay because I clearly don't need it anymore. You said I'm healing and I found the way. And I understand, I appreciate that that's what you learned. But in those moments when I sat in the doctor's office as well, I would see pharmaceuticals come in with this whole big board of all the different pills and all this stuff and their big, names and whatever of this medication. And like, I was like, what's going on here? I spent a lot of time in the doctor's offices just saying like, is this like a sales thing? Like, what is this? Because I'm like, I'm a patient. And that was the same thing when the doctor's like, well, I can't treat you. I'm like, really? Because, a doctor is supposed to help people get better and be invested in your health. And now you're telling me you're getting healthy and I'm out of here if you're not going to take my medication.
You're not going to.
But I had no judgment because I heard what he said. He literally devoted his life, and in medical school, that's the training that he received. So what else is there to do? And that's not the avenue. And that's something else I want to tell you, ladies, is anytime a mother has this intuition of like, oh, and you wouldn't even think that's intuition right there in that moment. However, in the back of my mind, something was like, this is so not right for a doctor to be saying this to me. And so this is so not right for me.
Yeah.
Because if he was offering a solution, of course, being as sick, I would say, thank you. But something here is not right. And that's what happened to me every step of the way, even especially as a parent, as a new parent who was so concerned about her babies. Now, I also came from this. And so I was more conscious of like my health and how my bacteria, how my children came out. Don't forget. So if I had this pre-cancer stuff and all of this, I was always in the conversation of how's my child's gut? Breastfeeding is best for that. Natural birth is best for that, for their breathing to be pushed through the canal, to come out. Okay, I don't want to have the drugs if I don't need them. Okay. See, it's a conversation that evolved. But not just that, I had support. That woman doctor, she supported me. So it was like I could be empowered because I would ask, and then there's this. Yes, there's this. Yes, you can juice. Yes, okay. Can I have the natural birth in a hospital? Yes, okay. Just know what you need to say. Make sure you're communicating clearly. Have your birth plan in place. A lot of people come up with birth plans, they don't follow them. So make sure that you don't allow them to put their fingers in you to test how many centimeters you are, even though it's common protocol. Because you're inviting in something that's not meant to be in there at that time. Baby's coming out. You shouldn't be putting anything. Okay. So all of this, like what would be, you don't need to have a medical degree to understand this stuff, but it empowered me. So then we're like, we're going to test you. Nope. We want to see how many centers. No, you don't need to know how many centimeters I am. You'll probably see, just keep monitoring me. We're good. We're okay. And so having, like I said, takes a village. So that's what I did. I reached out after I got, I did the Bradley method. I asked for, and I have 2 children. So the first time I just made sure that I had all of those things in place. And I didn't really have a lot of support in the hospital, but the Bradley method is where the husband actually is your coach. So while I was laboring and birthing, he was like, nope, keeping everybody away from me pretty much. They were like, well, she needs it, she needs it. And he was like, no, just leave her alone. And he was able to be there for me, different positions, different holdings, so that I could bring the baby down and birth beautifully. The second time, things had kind of shifted. I did have a second pregnancy that didn't come to term. And so I was going to have a home birth, and then I decided not to because they didn't pick up on what was going on with me with the baby, and I was carrying the baby after the baby stopped actually growing. So I had the baby in me, I had to have a D&C, and I thought I was 4 months pregnant, but the baby probably stopped growing around a month and a half. So at that point in time, I said, okay, I want to go back into the hospital just in case, right? Because something, it wasn't clear to me, and I wanted to be in that setting. And so at that point in time, again, I asked for a midwife to be there with me. It was someone that was in the hospital, so it was still in the medical system. But again, I was able to do the things because now I had a baby this way, and I still was able to have my natural birth.
There's so many questions I want to ask you, Christine. That's like, where do I start? So you were mentioning you're a colicky baby and all these different things happen. You must have been really stressed, just like all throughout. I can't imagine like till all that stuff building up in your esophagus. So if I can kind of ask you, if it's okay, in regards to your parents and how her pregnancy was and how that was as well.
So my mom was very young. She was 17, so she had a stressful pregnancy, right? She got pregnant before they were married. It was not okay to do that, right? So she was a very young new mom, scared. The birth itself was very traumatic for her. She passed out quite a few times during the labor, during the delivery. So so that in and of itself, she had a lot of stress with me having me, but totally loved me. And, I was always like surrounded by love. But my parents' situation was and did become more advanced in the case that after they were married and together, I think I was like a year and a half, and they decided to separate. So that brought along more. So this question is really good because what I have found, and really what I believe I've healed from innately, was this like a lot of fear in my family. And a lot of the women did, they got married young or they left their houses young, and the first marriage didn't work out, and then the woman had to be strong, and the woman there was like a lot of this, right? So now you would see how, when I was growing up, they were like, you have to be this, you have to, a lot of fear, anxiety, stress. And, I have always picked up on other people's energies. And people would ask me, are you nervous? And it wasn't so much that I felt nervous. I think there was like a lot of unknown for me. And I never felt that total safety and security.
Okay. And then in regards to when you were a teacher, were you a teacher in New York City or is it elsewhere? Yeah.
New York. Yeah.
I was I lived in the Bronx, so I went to one of the PS schools when I was little. So yeah. That's what I was going to ask you in regards to that. But when you were noticing all these different kids with all these different issues, and then you wanted to tell the parents what's going on, like what is it that you noticed some parents were actually more open to your voice, and which one were actually, I'm not, no.
Are you asking which parents or which level of advice were they open to?
Both, actually.
Both. Well, when you're teaching, you know that there are certain parents who are committed and involved, and there were also children who are already in the educational system who have been labeled, who have IEPs, let's say. Mm-hmm. And so those parents are a little more privy because they're already trying alternative things for their child so their child thrives. So those were the parents that, first of all, a child that has other things happening emotionally, physically, mentally, then
they can get set off, let's say, or like really, it can like kind of blow up very quickly. So parents would see that there would be such a great shift right away from the food, from the supplements, and I wasn't in a place to like give medical advice. I just was sharing like, hey, I eliminated gluten, I eliminated dairy. Do you know what's in? Are you reading the labels? Because what happened was after I had my healing and I was teaching, I went back to school to become a health coach. And so I started learning about food, where it comes from and all of that, and how it impacts the body. So I just started sharing, like, have you ever tried, here's an alternative thing. Instead of Oreos, you can give like Paul Newman's organic. It doesn't have all of that stuff. They'd be like, oh, really? So the moms were really, plus I was a teacher, so they already knew me, right? They were already in that environment. It was like an educator. I was just giving them like another thing to try. So they trusted me and they took action. And their kids would like lose weight, be able to focus better. We also had like these vending machines back then in the schools, believe it or not, that kids could just get stuff, junk, and they mostly would at lunch, and then they come back from lunch and they're like, and you're like, okay, it's math time. And you're like, all right, what did you have? What did you have for lunch? And they're like, oh my God, I have this. And so just sharing that information is so important. And, as a teacher, it is like being in the healthcare or something. You get to observe the child. You get to give the feedback on the report cards, all that other stuff. So, yeah, so I saw the parents who were, and really the children who already had the IEPs or something like that. Those are the ones that I would mostly focus on because those were the ones that were struggling the most.
That's, it's like for the patients that I see, I usually tend to see ones who have our parents basically they went to everyone and like literally everyone, and like I'm the last person they see. That's not where I want to be, but it's like the ones who think they're normal, they're fine, like they don't even like be aware of that. So it's almost as if the fact is you have to suffer so much to heal yourself to be in that mindset to heal, which is like it's heartbreaking for me. And so
it is. And I have learned that we are all worthy of having our own experiences in this life. Like we all come, like you said, like you started asking about my mom and that, right? It's like, yeah, I had that experience. And the thing is, we are empowered as people. So no matter what our circumstances are, we can find a way to rise above this. The human spirit, right, is able to like figure out a way to do that. And I will say, I think it's Dr. Joe Dispenza that actually talks about, he has like a phrase about it that says, either you have a sickness or an injury or something that's going to wake you up. And it requires that because otherwise you don't know what you don't know, and you don't even know you don't know it. So how will you come to it? And so you can only start with where you are. And if where you are is going to the general doctor, like that's why what happened with me, this and this and this and that, until boom. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. And there's always an event in your life, not always, but it does require you as a person to actually decide that you will become or be something different. Like there's an identity thing that happens, because I'm telling you, when I stood there with the doctors and I was like, he told me I have precancer. And my first thing was like, okay, doc, fix me, save me. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to go in, cut it out, give me different medicine? And he was like, no. He literally put his hands up. He was like, there's nothing we can do right now. It's precancer, what we're seeing, because there's abnormal tissue growing. And anytime that happens, it's a precancer condition. So we'll keep monitoring you every few months and blah, blah, blah. And in that moment, it felt like I could feel like him saying like, listen, girl, you're on your own. And I had this moment where I was like, oh, I heard my inner voice say, go off and allow your body to heal. All is well. And this was my, I say, wake up call, whatever, because it was like a slap in the face. But in that moment, I decided my body's going to heal. I've got to stop living this way of, oh, I'm gonna do it on the, okay, like I'm burning myself to the ground, and but my body can heal. So knowing that, all right, take a breath, step back. And I knew when I left the doctor's office that day, that was like the voice of God. I tell this story so much. And it's like, these are the moments. These are the moments. We've heard this before. When you're in do or die, you hear a voice. And I literally knew I was going to heal. And I left the doctor's office so calm. I called my family and I just, I told my mom, but I was like, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to give any energy to it. I'm going to be okay. Just going to let you know. I'll figure it out. It's going to be okay. My body's going to heal. And if I didn't take that, then I don't think, like, you could lead the horse to water kind of thing is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But you can't make it drink. And I love that you brought up Dr. Joe. I love Dr. Joe. And so something I really want to ask you about, especially if we're going to think about empowering other mothers, because I hear you when you say you can go in there with a birth plan. I went in with a book of a birth plan. This is what I want. I was very vocal about it. The minute I got into the hospital, it was as if I never wrote one. And that for me was my voice moment, because the nurse came in and told me I really didn't want to have epidural. I didn't like the thought of what ifs that could happen. So I was like, women been having babies naturally for years. Let's just go for this, And the nurse came in and she was like, I'm here to prep you for your epidural. And, through contractions, I'm like, oh, no, thanks. And she goes, oh, you're not going to make it without an epidural. And I panicked because this my medical support is now telling me I'm not going to survive my labor if I don't get this epidural I don't want. And for me, that was my stand in your power moment. I had no idea what it would look like. And all I knew is I'm 6 centimeters dilated and I'm going to have to figure this out like now. And so with that being said, and I don't want to take too much time to talk about how different my second baby was, but having that experience of, oh, I got this. I don't need them to tell me what to do. I can listen to my body and I can trust that my body is going to guide me through this. What advice can you give? And I also want to talk about point to the fact of how you said it's a decision we make to stand in that power. We have to decide, no, I don't want to be the victim anymore. No, I don't want to be the person where bad things are happening to me. I want to look at this is happening for me. Now, what am I going to get out of it? So for the women who may be worried about carrying a baby to term, there's plenty of women who've had lots and lots of miscarriages and they're terrified when they start to get to that last trimester. For the women who may have had really traumatic births before, but they're going for another baby. Women who maybe never been pregnant and they're just terrified to enter into this journey. What advice could you give them about stepping into their power and then holding it even when the fear arises?
Beautiful. Perfect.
Christine,
Awesome.
before you answer,
Yeah.
I'm gonna update it, and then I was like forgetting my password, so I'm gonna exit it and then like send you the new link just in case it ends while you're in.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. Hold the thought. See, time remaining. All right. Well, I'll get it all in. Okay. I love that you brought up this question because that's what happened to me too. I was in my first baby in the hospital, like I said. Now remember, the support system is key, ladies. So if you can't have a husband there, a partner there, then have your mother there, someone who's on your side in the room with you. Tell them that you're whatever, that you're, relatives or blood, and make sure you have support, because being pregnant is such a vulnerable part of your life. And actually, labor and delivery is the most vulnerable, even for animals in the wild. That's why they go and they hide and they need, right? Yes. We need to know this and remember this and know that in these times, we're not meant to be strong and fighting and speaking up, honestly. So when I say have the voice and be connected to the voices of others who tell you what to say. because I've leaned on those voices and made them my own. Okay, because I didn't know, and I wouldn't know to say the certain things that I've learned. So it's like a recall. So you need a community, you need a village, you do. Education, and education outside of the norm, education that's in line with your values. Otherwise, you're hearing the same voices, which are very disempowering, okay, as we just heard today. And so for me, this happened to me too. I was ready to have the baby. The anesthesiologist happened to be a man. He comes into the hospital. He sits down next to me. He's like, okay, we're going to get you prepped and all. I said, nope, it's on my birth plan. And he snickers at me and he goes, you know how many women come in with this? They want to have a natural baby birth stuff going on. No. He's like, you need to, I'm going to get you prepped. I go, no. I am going to have a natural birth. It's already written. I've had the classes. I've done this stuff. I don't need you. Thank you, but I don't need you. He laughs again and says, you're going to be biting the rails of that bed and it will be too late. I can't help you then. So you need to have the epidural now. And I was like, I was like 10 centimeters and I was, or 9 centimeters. I was not feeling good. Let's put it that way. I was like, what? And I'm just like, okay, thank you. No. And so that's when having people there, he gets up, walks all upset. Yeah. Can I tell you, after I had my baby, this man comes back and sits down again and says, I apologize for what I said to you before you went to have the baby. I didn't think that you were going to do it. I said, well, he goes, no. He goes, I didn't think you were going to do it because most women don't do it, even when they say they want to. I go, well, how could they? Because when you're so vulnerable and you have someone at you telling you you're going to be biting the rails, I never had a baby before, and you're doing this fear-mongering stuff with me, and how could I? He was like, you are so right. I am not going to do this again. I will not do this from here on out. This is where Rock Your Voice Woman was birthed. He came back to me. He told me he will not be pressuring and all of the now, whether or not or whatever, but like, isn't that beautiful?
That is, because I did not, my nurse was a woman. She was a woman of color. And like, I couldn't believe, and then my next nurse, the second baby, she was not a woman of color. And she was so supportive. I was like, I don't want an epidural. She said, okay, I got you. You can hold my hand. We'll sit here and we'll work through it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like, I cried because I was like, I'm so glad you're here. I feel like I can do this now, you know? So that's, that just, it made me so happy to hear.
And right, and because we don't know, and it is like our energy, it is what we say, like we don't know. Women of color, non-women of color, man, woman. Sometimes the women are worse. I had a woman, and you know, the second time that was like laughing at me, all this other. I mean, it's like, and while I'm birthing, I mean, it's just like who can you trust? You got to create your own community. You got to have people that have your back. I had my mom, I had my former husband there, and they were both like, get back, stay away, and everybody was like, shh, but you know what? Let me do my thing. The other thing I'll just say is if anybody needs a tip or a trick, you don't have to go to school for this one, so that they didn't touch me or make me bay. I mean, it's so sad to talk about the medical industry like this because really they should be on our side. And so much they are desensitized or, you know, or programmed to act and say certain things, protocol. So the way to avoid all of that, and the way I avoided all that and still having babies in the hospital was I actually walked around until I was almost ready to have the baby, and then I walked into the hospital. Once I was in the hospital, I kept hopping into the shower so they couldn't reach me, touch me, stick their fingers in me, or probe me or poke me or anything. They didn't like that, but they didn't come in the shower to get me out. The water also brings the baby down. So if you're birthing, water helps your body relax, and naturally the baby will start to get in position. It's a way to speed it up. So these are tips I've learned in child health care classes.
Okay. Kate, can we pause because if Christine, you don't mind, I want to talk about how she's saying, you know, we're supposed to be able to trust our medical support. And I think you and I have had a conversation where you told me, you know, doctors do what we're trained to do to help, and we're only doing what we're trained to know best. But once we're able to understand our patient is telling us this isn't working for me, then we're able to step into a new avenue. So I wanted to see if you can maybe, with Christine, like bounce ideas on how women can navigate those conversations with their medical support, especially if they're in their vulnerable state and may not know what to say in that very moment.
I've seen it. It's not that doctors are, mean and trying to whatever. It's just that ladies, if you follow the path that they have laid out for you, it's going to end up with a C-section, a premature baby, something or other that, all of this Pitocin and scheduled births and stuff create. It's natural is the best way. Our bodies are designed for this. Women do not sit in circles anymore. We do not sit in the village setting and share, and that's why we need to share, educate, inform. But even more than that, we need to be supportive. We need to be in the rooms. We need to be at the appointments for other women. I've had that. I told you about my strong women in my family. I saw my mom naturally birth 2 more of my sisters. And I was there before I had my babies. So I knew already that I could do it. I don't want to make it sound like I'm a badass or whatever. It was just that I witnessed it, and then I had the health scare, and I was kind of like, you know what? Nobody's going to tell me how to do this because it's what my body's designed to do. And if I need help, they will know. We will know, right? But aside from that, like, don't touch me. Don't bother me. If I don't have a fever, if I'm not whatever, if I'm naturally birthing, stay away from me. And it was horrific the first time. I have to tell you the truth. I took off all my clothes. Oh no, is that ridiculous? But yes, I took off all of my clothes and I was walking around the room and they had the door open. And literally doctors and nurses were stopping and looking at me. It was horrific. And I mean, I was like, screw, I didn't care.
You didn't care anymore.
I didn't care.
So for me, I'm sorry, but I'm connecting with you so much on this because for me, my first baby was sunny side up. I forget the correct medical term. She was sunny side up. They didn't tell me this, so I have no idea this is happening. Yep. And not breech, but where her face was up. She was still head first. Forward. So what happens is the back of the head gets caught on the pelvis coming through the canal. And so they didn't tell me this. I was laboring for 16 hours before I was ready to push. But what felt good to me, I stripped. I didn't when I say birth plan went out the window, I didn't want anybody in the room because I didn't know what my body would do. Everybody was in the room. My husband's family, who I didn't know that well at the time, all in the room. I'm booty naked, and I had gotten, what I will say was, those nurses did let me do whatever I said my body wants to do this, and those were my magic words. If I said my body's telling me to do this, then they're like, okay. And I ended up getting into almost child's pose just about, but I had my butt all the way in the air, and I had all my weight, my head was down, my butt was all the way in the air. Later, after baby's born, I find out that they were like, your body was telling you to do that because she was sunny side up. I didn't know. I hadn't read that anywhere. I just did it, and it relieved so much pain, and I hadn't slept in 2 days, and that I was able to take a nap during my labor. And if I hadn't told the nurses, and they were looking at me crazy too, but if I hadn't said my body's telling me to do this, they would have kept telling me to lay on my back, and it saved me from going into an emergency C-section.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's you don't hear these stories, you don't know this, and then if you're following their path, then you know where that's going to lead. My doctor literally came in and I'm like, what? I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, well, we don't see people, walking around naked like this. I'm like, really? In birth? He's like, no, usually they come in and they lie down. I'm like, and here I am, you don't want to be having these conversations at this point in time, but apparently they need to be happening. So I'm just like, are you people crazy? And then like he starts talking to my mom, and my mom's like, well, how do you want her to have this baby? If she lays down, she's not gonna, the baby's not gonna come down. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm not used to this, like all these hours. I come in and then I can't stay here much. I can't stay here on my clock this many hours. I wouldn't get paid. My mother's like, really? Oh, really? Really? That's what this is about. Like, because I was in labor for like 16 hours. And yeah, and I guess he wasn't on call. He must have came in something or other, but he wasn't in the room with me that whole time. So I don't know. But yeah, that was his thinking, and he didn't understand. And I was like, whatever. And people came to me after I gave birth, and they were like, you were the woman, like I was some kind of celebrity or freak. I don't know. I'm like, yeah, that was me. And I was up. The baby came out. I walking around. They're like, you just had a baby. I'm like, yeah, people.
Yes,
I got it too. Your stomach sucks in. You feel. You feel.
Your body's made to do this.
Yeah, your body's made for this stuff. So yeah, that's raw sisterhood.
And so, Kate, I'm very curious to know if you guys have words you listen for, because I noticed Christine said, like, I don't feel like I have a temperature. I don't feel like anything's wrong. I feel normal. no, thank you. No, thank you. You had a very polite way of declining. No, thank you. Are there words you listen for when a woman's in labor?
So in regards to that, I usually kind of go in and see what's going on. When they're uncomfortable, I check their pelvis. Like, this is what a chiropractor is going to do. It's like checking the spine to make sure everything's allowing the body to do what it needs to do. That's the main phrase. Allow the body what it needs to do. When the pelvis is shifted for a certain reason, because, from before birth, during pregnancy, certain things like that, that torsion of the pelvis doesn't allow I don't know if you've ever felt the sacrum kind of go up and down when you're giving birth. Like in the x-rays, I actually recorded that, and it's intense because all the ligaments in your pelvis is so lax, and it's lax for the next 10 months after birth. And so if that is shifted because of that tension, all the muscles in those areas where you can't do what you need to do, therefore you have to, be in a certain position to allow that baby to do what he or she needs to do. So having that's kind of like the magic phrase. It's like allowing the body. What's stuck, let's get that unstuck. Let's allow it to do the contraction, whatever it is.
I love that. Well, does anyone have anything to add?
I do have actually, Christine, did you have anything else?
I do. Sorry, I'll make it quick. Yeah, the thing is, I will have to say, I keep talking about the village. I keep talking about other women or men or whoever you need to have as support. I said the Bradley method. There are other there are other things I did. Hypnosis. What is it called?
Hypnotherapy.
Is it Hypno Babies? So like there's other ways to prepare yourself and prepare your body, but having the education of what to do and what to say. And so I will just say the Bradley method for me, like when you're feeling a certain way, they teach you how to use your partners, hold around the neck and kind of dance, and they teach you how to squat, they teach you how to press against the wall, all this stuff to really help your body, because if you don't know, that's the most difficult part. What's up, babe? Yes. I'll be off in 5 minutes, okay?
Can I just ask how to turn this
Yeah,
on?
you can. Sure thing. So that, and I say this because, well, even for me, the part of labor that I never felt I actually got right was when I laid down and pushed. I didn't want to lay down. I didn't want to. I kept asking, can I have the squat bar? Can I have the squat bar? But nobody knew how to support me on the squat bar. So there I am. They like put it on top of the bed. I mean, it was so weird and awkward. But like I noticed that in my laboring, like I said, I waited. Don't go into the hospital when you're feeling all like you have the contraction. No. Walk into if you want a natural birth, you walk in when you feel like, okay, this baby is coming out. because the minute you walk through the doors of that hospital, everything slows down. Remember what I said, the fear-based, all that? Well, your body does not want to birth the baby. And when you walk into hospital, like, sit down, let's get you in the wheelchair. And yeah, just even that slows everything down. So wait until you're almost ready. Like, hang out outside. That's what I did. I did whatever I needed to do. Then when I went in, it was like not too much. But my first kid, I didn't realize I'd be in labor for so long. So I guess that happened anyway. The other thing is, yeah, know what you want to say, know what you want to do, know the kind of birth that you want to have, and how you want you to be with your baby afterwards. So my first baby, they took him to be circumcised, but that was it. He was with me for the rest of the time, and that was for bonding and breastfeeding. And everybody kept saying, "Oh, put him in the nursery." I didn't want that. And my second baby, I mean, she didn't even get a bath or a sponge bath or anything in the hospital. She totally stayed with me the whole time. And they thought I was crazy. I was like, I just kept making excuses. Ladies, say whatever you need to say. Do whatever you need to. Oh, no, she has to feed. You can't take her. Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no. Okay, it's almost time to go. I'll give her a bath when we go home. They checked her and all that other stuff. Yeah, in front of me, right there. Okay, yeah, but they gave her back. She didn't go to the nursery. They didn't go to the nursery. They didn't have all that funny stuff going on. And everybody told me, you need the rest. You need the rest. No, it actually helps my body to rest more when I have my baby and we're breathing together and they're feeding. Like, actually, this is good. So don't be afraid of that. But educate yourself so you have the language, so you know the voices, so you know what to say. That was the most empowering thing for me, for my partner, for my mother. They knew things to say so that everybody would kind of leave me alone. If it's an emergency and all that, yeah, I mean, you know it's going to happen. If you're not feeling good, if you're in pain, if you start to sweat, if you start to have a fever, they're there. They can help you. That's what the medical system is for. Otherwise, just go it alone. The less that you can have anybody intervene or touch, the better it will be. I think, and you can correct me, that we have like such one of the highest infant mortality rates.
Have you watched The Business of Being Birthed?
Well, that's why I had Ricky Lake on my series. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. Right? And like, here's the deal with giving your power away. You've got to do your own research. You've got to know what's best for yourself. Don't follow anybody else. Ask around, get a community, talk to other mothers. So the other thing I had was, after the pre-stuff, I had La Leche League for breastfeeding support. I had Holistic Moms for raising the kids. I'm still part of these communities. I don't know if we talk about this stuff. It used to be on Yahoo groups. Now it's on Facebook, social media. We were very small. It felt like the underground railroad of raising babies. I mean, because it's crazy, but you have to know things. You have to know what to say, because they know what to say. And they ask you questions. And if you can't answer it, they can take the baby, do the things, all this other stuff. So you need to be empowered in your own right. You can't be like a crazy mama. You've got to know what to say. I think that's really important, because I just want to let you know that it's not just my voice. It's the collection of voices that we're disconnected from today, unfortunately. And it's become so mainstream to just do the things. And I'm like, no, you know. Even for my cousin, you know, she wanted to have her baby. She was going to go in and have Pitocin. I was like, he's not ready yet. Oh, he's coming today. No, nobody. The baby knows when he's coming. Your body knows when he's coming. Well, she went in or whatever, and she went to get checked, and she was already having contractions. So God worked that one out, because I was praying really hard on that one. I was like, I'm like, and I'm trying to speak languages like, it's so much easier on your body, ladies, when you have a natural birth. So, you know, Dr. Kate can talk about it, but like when you have that Pitocin stuff, it is like the end all. It's like your body naturally contracts, opens, contracts, right? But when you have Pitocin, it's like squishing a melon in your hands all at the same time. Remember that doctor said, I'm going to be biting the railings of the bed? Yeah, that would cause me to do that. Natural birth, natural breathing, there's nothing you can't handle. And if there is, Usually that means you're in transition. You're just about to meet your baby. But if there is something that's really so horrific and you're like, I can't take this anymore, then you're supported in that. You'll know. You will know. So trust yourself. That's the best thing. Keep having these conversations. This is being empowered. Yeah. Even I'll say one last piece about breastfeeding, because I had issues with my kids breastfeeding and I didn't know, and they kept telling me my milk was not enough. See, I didn't get an easy break at all. You went through all that, you thought that was bad? No, there's phase 2 of your birth, and that's bringing baby home and breastfeeding. And I had so much milk, but my babies weren't growing and all this other stuff. And I said, something is wrong. Yeah, you don't have enough milk. You're not. I'm like, you have to supplement with formula, all this stuff. And I'm like, no. Something is wrong with the connection. Something's not, you know, and they checked and they checked and they checked. My baby was almost 3 months old. I had to go to New York City. So I'm in New Jersey. I had to go to a specialist who was on The Business of Being Born. She was one of the lactation specialists. Yeah. Went in, oh yeah, he has a classic case of tongue tie. Snip, took care of that right there. I went through 3 months of feeding my baby every 2 hours, around the clock, breastfeeding, pumping, trying to do all these things, but trying to also maintain the relationship with the baby and the breastfeeding. And that's what it was. Nobody knew. In the hospital setting, I took them 3 times. I kept going back to hospital. Oh, it's you. They just want to push the formula. They want to whatever. I ended up making homemade formula for my babies to supplement and breastfeeding. I'm telling you, because I was part of these groups, I was like, nope. I was like, I opened the can of formula. I was like, this is horrific. Have you smelled it? Oh God, I don't know what it smells like today. It was horrific. Anyway, there are other ways. Ways. There's also women who freeze the breast milk who would give you, if you're in the situation like I was, you know, I didn't know. And so much of it is that we don't know. We're living inside of a man's world that's filled, and nothing against the men, just that they were here, they've claimed it, they've worked it. And if men were having the babies, we'd have a whole different system. And if men were having the periods and menstruation, we'd have a whole different, okay? Because the women don't go out there and speak up enough about it. And I trust that's why I wanted to come speak to you two today, because I know you take a stand for this, and this is what needs to happen. It makes sense. It feels good. It's the most powerful thing. You get to have your baby, your life, your body as you feel it should be. And nobody gets to take that away from you. When you have those feelings of nervousness, of something's not right here in your head, right? It's like, trust that. Trust your intuition. Trust your inner knowing. And keep going to find something until it clicks and it works. And that's what I did. I've left pediatricians, you know, because whatever. And we gotten into places together. I'm like, this is crazy. And I would just go, and I found the right one. And now I don't even use them anymore because it's not needed. I still have her, just don't need to visit her. We do chiropractic though. You do, you know, other stuff like that, alternative.
Yeah, for sure. Holistically, what's going on to help you. I love it. Thanks.
I'm done.
You answered every question I was going to ask you. So I was like,
oh, see? Like, wait. Squeeze it out of me. I know. I mean, these are conversations we need to have.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oops.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Before you go, can you please tell us where we can find you online?
Sure thing. Yeah. So my website is Rock It Out Woman. It's ROCKITWOMAN singular, rockitoutwoman.com. You can find me, Christina Miskinis. I am on everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, so you can find me there, all the good stuff. I've been pretty vocal and out there in the media. I've been on Dr. Oz a few times, and news and all this other stuff, advocating for women, ultimately for women having voices, because if you have a voice, then you can rock it out in your life. You can have the life you live. You can
the way you want to live. You can be healthy, you can be happy, you can be peacefully parenting. You don't have to conform to all the stress and all the crazy agendas and all the other calendar stuff that people have going on. You don't have to have your kids in a million different things. You are enough just as the woman that you are. Your children will love and learn from you if you love and learn from them and show up as yourself and share yourself. You don't need any experts. I'm sorry, I'm still going, but it's like,
Keep going.
you don't need any experts. Like this whole thing of sleeping expert and this expert and that expert. I mean, I co-slept, you know, I slept when the baby slept. Yeah, my house was a mess for quite a while. I mean, who cares? You know, do what's best for you. I love my kids. They love me. We have an amazing relationship today. There's no like craziness. There's no needing to have a certain way of parenting. It's just insane. You know, learn and trust that you'll figure it out together and just get supported. I'm done now. Christina Miskinis, rock it out, woman. Yes, I still coach moms, and you know, like I coach moms on these things as well. So you don't have to actually be speaking, but I do train women, entrepreneurs, how to get on there, how to get media attention, because the message is still the same. I want to see women's voices out in the world. That means if you need to partner with men or not reinvent the wheel, you don't have to be a feminist. There are things already in place. Men are open. They're willing to listen. You can actually, you know, be partnering with people, different people. You don't have to do this alone, but get your voice out there. So whether that is in your community, in your schools, in your healthcare, in your religion, whatever, or out into the media, on stages, whatever. Like, it can be all. I was breastfeeding my baby and connecting with celebrities and whatever from this little screen on my computer. You can make it happen. Whatever you want, don't give up. Just get the support. Rock it out.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you, Christine.